You know, all along the modern times, the myth of future has been connected to the myth of energy. Think about Faust, for instance. This idea that future is energy, more and more and more. More speed, more strength, more consumption, more things, more violence. Futurism is the point of passage, the final step to the full modernity, and futurism is the exaltation of violence, of despise for the woman, for instance. The woman is weakness, is sensuousness, is feebleness. Everything the modern energy wants to forget about. Forget the women, despise the women, exalt war, exalt violence, exalt acceleration. This is futurism. Now, futurism has brought the world to this point of total despair. Futurism without future. This is the present reality we are facing, and we have to invent something beyond this obsession of the future, because the future is over. And saying that future is over does not mean that tomorrow we will not get up. We will get up, but please, don't be obsessed about the idea that we want more things, more violence, more speed. We want more time to live. At a certain moment in the year 77, as far as I can remember, we had the perception that the future was over. We had the perception that the idea of a constant growth was leading us to destruction and to war and to total exploitation of our life in the name of the future. So, in some places of the world, for instance, in the United Kingdom, where Mrs. Thatcher was taking the power and was saying there is no such thing as society, so some people cried, no future. If future has to be a future without society, a future where only economy, where capitalism, where wealth and accumulation is legitimate and society is nothing, if future is this, we say no future. In some other places of the world, for instance, in Italy, in Bologna and in Rome, students, young proletarians, people said, we want our life now. You see, 77 was the strangest of the years, because in a sense it was the year of color, of happiness, of creativity, of invention of new possibilities for life, but at the same time, or maybe suddenly after, it became the darkest of moments, because we became aware that the possibility of richness, of joy, all of a sudden was destroyed by the restoration of the law of capitalism, of profit, of mandatory future. So what now? You see what is happening now at the beginning of the second decade of the century that comes after the end of the future. you can see it, you can see this destruction, this devastation of the possibilities that the modernity has created. You see it in the dictatorship of the financial economy. Financial economy is destroying intelligence, is destroying public school, is destroying creativity, is destroying the environment, is destroying water, is destroying weather. Everything has to be sacrificed to the growth, to the growth, to the growth. This abstract growth of money, of value, of nothing. So how can we withdraw from this kind of craziness? I think that we have to act and to live in a post-futurist way, which means we have to choose for slowness of pleasure, like the birds in the sky, like the flowers in the fields. They don't need to work. They don't need to accumulate. They don't need to possess. They need to have pleasure, to live in time. Time is not something that you can accumulate. Time is something you can accommodate in and take pleasure of the decomposition of yourself, taking pleasure of the becoming other of yourself. Becoming other means being yourself without protecting yourself. This is post-futurism, I guess. And growth is a difficult word to use. Actually, I don't really like the word. It's an approximation to a better concept that we should invent. Growth means the constant expansion of capital, of property, of the world of things. But we do not need more things. We need more time. We do not need more property. We need more joy. The collective intelligence, the social organization of collective brain has created the possibility of producing everything we need without more exploitation. So the problem now is not to restart growth. The problem now is to find a way to enjoy of what we already have got and to develop the possibility of self-care, of self-therapy, of self-education. Society has to come out from the obsession of growth. The problem of this word, ungrowth, is that it seems to hint to something less. Not at all. What we need is not less life, less pleasure. We need more life, more pleasure. But more life, more pleasure does not imply more consumption, more merchandise, more work. We are dying because of the huge bubble of work. We have been working too much during the last 500 years. We have been working too much during the last 30 years. Stop working now. Start living, please. Angle. If there were a place we don't know, and there on some ineffable carpet, the lovers who never could bring off their feet here, could show their bold, lofty figures of earth swings, their towers of ecstasy, their pyramids that long since where there was no standing ground, were tremblingly propped together, could succeed before the spectators around them, the innumerable silent dead. Would not these then throw their last ever hoarded, ever hidden, unknown to us, eternally valid coins of happiness before that pair with the finally genuine smile of the assuaged carpet? A French philosopher called Simondon says, uses the word individualization. Individualization is the ability to be yourself in separation from the world. Singularity is something different. Singularity is the ability to become yourself, creating the world with your becoming yourself. The history of capitalism, the history of accumulation, of growth, is the history of the homologation of different lifestyles, of different rhythms, of different relationships with the world. Everything must become similar, homogeneous, exchangeable. Singularity is the ability to withdraw from this kind of homogenization. Singularity is joy becoming yourself. In the second volume of the Grundrisse, Marx speaks of general intellect. General intellect is a fundamental concept if you want to understand something of what is happening now, a century and a half after Marx. General intellect means the connection of infinite fragments of human intelligence in a continuous machine of production. Cognitariat is a word, a concept, meaning at the same time the general intellect at work and the body, the denied body, the forgotten body of the general intellect. Because you know, the general intellect has a body, an erotic body, a social body. But when we are working in the network machine, we forget about our body. And this is sickening us. This is producing pathologies. This is producing psychopathologies, social pathologies. So cognitariat, the concept of cognitariat, means remember, you, general intellect, you have a body. This body is precarized in the present conditions. What means the word precarious, precarization? You see, what is work nowadays? Work is becoming an ocean, a sea, an infinite sea of fragments of abstract time. Fragments, recombinable fragments, fractals, I would say. Fractals of time, of working time, of intellectual working time, joining, connecting together in the network machine. So the capitalist does not need to buy you, your person. You have rights. You have a life. You have a family. You have a union. So capital does not need you anymore. He needs your time. You are fragments of time. This is precarization. The forgetting about the body, forgetting about the person, forgetting about the erotic needs and desire of the person, forgetting about the unions, about the social and political rights of the person, and directly taking your time fragments, your time fractals, and recombining it in the network machine. Cognitariat is remember that you have a body. General intellect is looking for the body. When capitalism connects with the general intellect, it starts to produce in a different way. No more things, no more cars, no more iron and metal and steel. Well, iron and metal and steel and cars and things still are there. But what we are really producing is not that. It's the concept, is the sign, is the semio, as the old Greeks said. Semio capital is the new condition of capitalism in a world, in a situation where the production is essentially semio-production, production of projects, production of financial figures, production of words, production of concept, production of simulation. Semio-capital is essentially about simulation, simulated capitalism. This is semio-capital. Actually, when you think about the present condition, you should be aware it's not so much about cognitive capitalism. Capitalism is not cognitive. Capitalism is financial, if you want, is abstract, is simulated. Work is cognitive work, and capital is becoming more and more the immaterial world of production of illusions. Semio-capitalism is all about acceleration. Acceleration of the infosphere. The infosphere, the environment feels saturated with science. We produce science, we receive and consummate science, and the acceleration of the infosphere is increase and growth of capital value. More science, more simulations, more and more. And this kind of acceleration is producing an effect of designification of the word. More science, more information, less meaning. You remember that this idea of inflation of information was an idea of William Burroughs. Burroughs said, more information, less meaning. So what is happening is a kind of pathologization of the psychosphere, the acceleration of the infosphere, the acceleration of the rhythm of information is producing an effect of contraction and of sickness in the psychosphere, in the sphere of our psychic and sensual relationships. So you see that this process of acceleration is producing an effect of suffering. Suffering is the main problem of the first internet generation, of the first generation which learned more words from the machine than from the mother. Psychic suffering, depression, panic, attention deficit disorders, epidemic of suicide. This is the mark of the last decade. So what? Giorgio Agamben, in a text about language and death, says that the voice is the point, the meeting point of body and meaning. Interesting idea. And I would say that poetry is the meeting point of meaning and sound, meaning and music, de la musique avant toute chose, de la musique encore et toujours, because music does not mean only sound, means rhythm. And what we need is finding our singular rhythm. Singularity is all about rhythm, about recovering your retournelle, your refrain, your ability to relate to the stars, to the sky, to the ground, to the body of the other, to your own body. So I say therapeutic, and I think about the therapeutic effect of my voice, of Rilke writing poetry, poetry, voice, body, retournelle, rhythm, coming back of what has been denied because of the acceleration of the infosphere. I have a dream, the dream of a website where you can click on a link and the screen gets black. You cannot check your mail. You cannot check your Facebook profile. You cannot go anywhere in the net. You only can listen to my voice. This is therapeutic. Bye-bye.